Did you know that worrying is praying for what you don't want? Have you ever had fearful thoughts that felt bigger than your peace? Have you ever imagined worst-case scenarios and then felt your heart become heavy because of the pictures your mind was painting? Have you ever wondered why fear sometimes feels so loud, even when you know love is near? If your heart has ever felt this way before, then maybe this Heart2Heart Storytime is for you. So now, let us turn the page and read this Heart2Heart story together. Once upon a Heart2Heart time. Inside the house of love. The fireplace glowed softly against the deep crimson walls while warm golden light danced across the room like tiny whispers of peace. At the center of the room sat the table of love, beautifully handcrafted by the Father of Love himself. Every piece of wood had been chosen with care, and every curve carried the touch of his loving hands. It was a table built for closeness, for rest, for truth, for peace, for togetherness, for hearts to gather near and remember they were never alone. And there at the table sat the child of love, quietly thoughtful. The child's heart had been carrying many fearful thoughts lately. What if something goes wrong? What if I fail? What if tomorrow hurts? What if everything falls apart? The thoughts drifted through the room like shadows late at night. And little by little, the child of love became so focused on those fearful pictures that the whole room began feeling heavy inside their heart. Have you ever felt that way too? Sometimes our thoughts become so loud that they begin sounding more real than peace itself. And without even realizing it, the child had slowly begun using worry like a prayer for everything they did not want. The Father of Love watched the child carefully with eyes full of tenderness. Love himself had seen every fearful thought drift through the child of Love's mind. Yet his heart toward his child never changed for even a moment. Then softly, almost like a whisper carried by firelight, the Father of Love spoke from his own heart. My sweet child, you do not have to keep rehearsing fear. The more your heart stares at fearful pictures, the heavier your heart begins to feel. Worrying keeps rehearsing everything you are afraid of. But my precious child, what if you chose to believe my love is already waiting for you in tomorrow? What if you chose to believe my grace will meet you there? What if you chose to believe my goodness is still surrounding your life, even now? What if you chose to believe I am already holding the pieces you are afraid might fall apart? What if you chose to believe that I am nearer than your very breath? Then the Father of Love gently reached for the child's trembling heart once more and whispered, Beloved child, look again. The child slowly lifted their eyes. And suddenly something beautiful began happening. The child realized they had never actually been sitting at a table of fear at all. They were still sitting at the table of love. The fearful thoughts had not changed the table. Fear had not built it. Fear had not carved it. Fear had not touched the loving hands that created it. The table of love had always belonged to the Father. The wood itself came from trees he created. The room itself was filled with his presence. The warmth of the fire still glowed with his goodness, and the child of love was still fully welcomed there. The child had simply become so focused on fearful thoughts that they momentarily forgot where they truly were. And the Father of Love smiled tenderly and spoke again. Fearful thoughts do not have the authority to rename what I created in love. Fear did not build this table. Fear did not create this home. Fear does not define your story. I built this table with my own hands of love, so you would always have a place near me. Something inside the child's heart began softening. Then the Father of love gently continued. Beloved child, I never created your imagination to become a place where fear grows wild. I created your imagination like a lantern inside your heart, meant to shine with goodness, truth, beauty, hope, mercy, and the warmth of my promises. I created your heart to dream with me, create with me, hope with me, and fill your thoughts with what is lovely, honorable, pure, beautiful, and filled with good report. Philippians 4 verse 8. But sometimes fear tries to borrow the imagination and paint frightening pictures upon its walls. And the longer the child stared at fearful pictures, the heavier the room began feeling inside their heart. Because whatever fills the heart slowly shapes the atmosphere within it. Thoughts become feelings and feelings become burdens or peace. Slowly, what fills the inside of the heart begins flowing outward into everyday life. Then the Father of love spoke gently once more. I am not ashamed of you for feeling afraid. I am teaching your heart how to rest again. I am teaching your thoughts to breathe inside my love. I am showing you how to guard the wellspring of your heart. Because I long for your heart to remain filled with life. The child of love looked once more toward the Father sitting beside them at the table. And slowly, the child began turning away from fearful pictures and back toward the loving face of the Father. And as the child looked into the warmth of love's eyes once again, something beautiful began happening deep within their heart. It was almost as though the child was recovering their sight. The veil of fear slowly began lifting, and the eyes of the heart began opening again. What once felt hidden beneath shadows suddenly became clear again in the light of love's presence. Luke 4 verse 18, Ephesians 1 verse 18. Then quietly, almost like prayers wrapped in trust, the child whispered, because you are good. I choose to believe goodness is still surrounding my life. Because you are faithful. I choose to believe you are already waiting for me in tomorrow. Because you are loving. I choose to believe I am never abandoned. Because you are merciful. I choose to believe grace will meet me wherever I go. Because you are compassionate. I choose to believe you are near to me in every hurting place. Closer than my very breath. Gently holding the broken pieces of my heart and binding my wounds with your tender love. Psalm 34 verse 18, Psalm 147 verse 3. Because you are the God who sees me, hears me, and knows me completely. I choose to believe I am never invisible to you, never forgotten, and never alone. Genesis 16 verse 13, Psalm 139 verses 1 to 3. Because you are trustworthy. I choose to believe you are working all things together for good. Romans 8 verse 28. Because your plans for me are filled with hope and peace. I choose to trust your heart. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. And little by little, the atmosphere inside the room began changing. The fireplace glowed brighter, the room felt warmer, and the shadows no longer felt frightening. Peace slowly settled over the child's heart like a soft comforter wrapped gently around their soul. And then the child realized something even deeper. Fear had never truly belonged inside the house of love. Fear had only lingered near the doorway whispering lies, trying to convince the child that darkness was reality. But the moment the child began agreeing with the truth of the Father of love, the room filled with light once again. Truth filled the room. Peace filled the room. Love filled the room. And fear began shrinking smaller and smaller beneath the warmth of the Father's presence. The fearful whispers grew quieter. The shadows pulled backward. And suddenly, like a frightened intruder exposed by morning light, fear turned and fled straight toward the open door of the house. Not because the child became perfect overnight, but because the child remembered what was true. The child remembered whose house they were sitting in, whose hands built the table, whose love filled the room, and whose voice carried the final truth. Then the Father of Love softly whispered, "Beloved child, fear was never your home. You were always meant to rest here with me. You were always mine." The great doors of the house of love opened wide, and fear disappeared into the darkness outside, while warmth, joy, mercy, laughter, and peace remained glowing inside like golden firelight. And there, at the table of love, breathing became lighter, rest returned, and hope awakened again. And the child of love looked around the table and noticed something beautiful. There was still room for others. So the child stood gently from the chair, reached toward the doorway, and whispered with tenderness, "And if your heart has been feeling heavy too, come sit with us. You do not have to carry fearful thoughts alone anymore. There is still a place for you at the table of love." And one by one, hearts began gathering near the warmth of the Father's presence. Some came carrying worry. Some came carrying sadness. Some came carrying questions. Some came simply longing to rest. And the Father of Love welcomed every single one of them with open arms. Because fear was never the true story. Love was. And in the house of love, we happily learned to live from that truth from the inside out, ever after. Heart to heart in his love, Momo Smiley.